And we're
Mitchell,
back. Oh,
we're back.
we're back.
4th of July weekend was good for you, I hope. I know we saw each other, but you
Yeah, I
still
was gonna
have all
say
your
we
fingers?
were together
You
for
still
like
have,
half
dude, my
the
camera's
day.
gonna do it already. Still got all your fingers?
I do have all my fingers,
Uh,
fortunately.
that's good.
Although I
Uh,
didn't light off any fireworks, so if I had lost a finger, there's a bigger problem going on.
yeah. Um, yeah, 4th of July activities after you have children are
Really boring.
quite less exciting than what they used
Yeah.
to be. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, because last year I bought like 20 or 30 mortars and I was shooting them off in the backyard.
were you still at the house that you're at now?
Yeah, not my backyard.
Oh,
My
oh,
parents' yard.
yeah. Um, yeah. What else was I
I
gonna
could light
say?
them off here though. I mean, probably good.
But we still got to shoot guns. We got to
We
shoot
did shoot
some.
guns.
We shot a lot of cool guns actually.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. As far as that goes, shooting the guns. I've always wondered how gassy the RC2 was, and I discovered how gassy the RC2 was. Um,
Pretty good.
the back going from flow through to an RC2 is quite an experience,
Yeah.
especially if it's on a lower that is full auto.
Yeah. It's like the
Uh,
difference of like catching like a whiff. Like somebody sprayed somebody else with pepper spray like 100 yards from you. You like catch like a whiff of it. And it's like, I don't like that. Versus like being straight up in a CS gas chamber in
it,
boot camp
dude, it's
in the
like
military.
it's like it's basically getting raped by carbon is what it is
Yeah.
essentially like running an RC2 in full auto. Like I didn't get to bring the Gordy clone cuz I didn't know we were actually shooting guns.
Yeah.
So if I would have known the guns that we would have our buddy would have been bringing to shoot on the 4th of July, if I would have known that there was going to be a full auto 5.56 with an RC2 there, I would have brought the Gordy with the FRT in it just to compare the difference.
Mm.
Because I don't know if you remember or not, because the last time we shot the Gordy was a long time ago.
Mm.
So I wonder how. I almost think like the RC2 was worse,
Yes, I think so.
which is crazy.
I mean, there's a lot of different factors. Whether it be like I don't remember what the gas length was on that one, or anything like that. I mean, even down to ammo, like the type of ammo you use plays a role in that too. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, but no. Um, Still fun though. We had a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time. I know. I wish I would have known as well that we were shooting guns because I would have brought some stuff too. I got my M16 with the FRT in it, which would have been tons of fun. But glass wasn't a
Uh,
thing.
you said you had a couple stories.
Oh yeah. Well, it's hard for me to grab. Well, I can't grab it, but up here I got my 11.5, and I got in a new Troy Industries M-Lock rail. Very nice rail, super cool. But it ended up being like too long for my can, so the rail would go over my can just a little bit and touch the inside of the rail by I don't know, like an inch, inch and a half. So I straight up got a miter box, and I cut it with a handsaw, like an inch and a half short, and then I filed it, sanded it, and put some aluminum black on it, so it blackened the metal again.
So you got in a new rail and you immediately took
I
a handsaw to it.
promptly took a handsaw to it within 10 minutes.
That's the most Mitchell coded story I've actually ever heard in my entire life. Honestly, that's the most you story I think I could ever think of. Honestly, congratulations.
I knew you'd like that one. So I had to save that for the show.
Unbelievable.
I'll show you. When we get backstage, I'll actually show it to the camera so that way you can see what I did. But
you should have just started off with just saying like, "Hey, I got a new rail in. What do you think the first thing I did to it was?" I would have just said, "You probably sawed a part of it off." That would have been my. Right. I probably could have guessed that that's what you did.
Yeah.
Bolt lock. I have the Clone Correct Allen Engineering. I think it's the AEM. It's the AEM4. It's like the Clone Correct one. It's the longer one from that whole situation. It's not the. It's not like the Otter Creek Labs shorter version that's on the Mark 12. Speaking of suppressors, I found this out this week because I got a new suppressor for the Scar now that I settled on one.
Mm.
And I didn't realize that as of like July 1st, Silencer Shop is like doing like a thing where like you don't have to, once your suppressor gets to your dealership, you don't have to like have the dealership certify your thing. Like it just does it if you link your whatever, your ATF account with Silencer Shop. If you link those two, it'll like automatically do it.
It'll automatically send it to your fire or your FFL to certify it, and you don't even have to do anything.
I don't even think it goes through the dealership. I think it just goes straight through. It went straight to the ATF. So like upon arrival, you're glitching out. We lost some folks. Let's get a zoom in on this beautiful face here. Look at that. Look at that handsome boy right there. Just straight up confused. Straight up confused. Oh no. Oh no, this is getting bad.
Oh, I'm back. I'm back. Was that you or me?
That was you, bro.
Oh.
You didn't, I hope. I don't know. Bolt lock. Let us know. Who did the whole thing freeze or pretty sure it was just you. Oh, it did again. It's definitely you. This guy. This guy, man. Well, I guess we better start our first story while we wait for Mitchell to focus up here. Best game of Don't Move. Staring contest. Gun news. There's a couple gun news stories this week. And then he looks stoic. This is the most stoic you'll ever see. You'll ever see the boy right here. Unbelievable. Couple gun news stories. We have like some ATF stuff. Oh, he's all the way gone. He's back now. Oh my gosh. Figure it out.
I don't know what's going on.
Dude, the best part about this show is dealing with Mitchell's computer issues every single time we do a live stream. It's something new.
before we even started streaming, my mouse, I go to use my computer and my mouse is only
Dude, he
right
froze.
clicking.
Yeah,
No, I didn't.
he froze for a second.
No, it was only right clicking. So even though I was left clicking to go open Discord and stuff, it was still right clicking, and I couldn't open anything. It was making me mad. So I don't know what that was all about.
Maybe you should spend less money on your Troy industry rails that you're gonna just inevitably like take a hacksaw to
You know what?
and buy a new mouse or something. What even was that?
My mouse?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just restarted my PC and it worked.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Well, the only two gun news things that I really want to talk about that are actually interesting this week is like the whole. Have you been seeing the stuff with like the ATF director?
Yes, about him approving forms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently
Right?
this guy on Reddit just DM'd the ATF director and was like, "Hey, my Form 1 is taking forever. Can you look into it?" And he DMs back and is just like,
Yeah,
"Yeah,
give me like 10 minutes.
yeah, I'll look into it." And then he gets it approved like the same day. And so that's been like kind of going around. And
I should have done that when I waited like 9 months for mine. Although that was also back when like form e-forms was still kind of new, so that took a while.
well, apparently this new guy is like trying to appear more gun friendly. I have my thoughts, but I want to get your thoughts on it first. But that's kind of like the thing going around is like, oh, the ATF director's kind of based, whatever, like all that stuff. What do you think about that? Dude, this guy, Bullock, your shortest wait time was 6 months? Shortest? That's crazy. I think honestly my longest wait time, I didn't start getting NFA stuff until like eForms was like moving. So I think my longest wait time was like a week. Oh, longest. Yeah. My longest was probably like 5 days for suppressors. I don't know if I had anything longer. Actually, it was probably like a month for my scar. I think it was like a month for my scar, but nothing longer than a month for me. This dude, I have to
I don't understand what's going on.
dude, fix yourself.
I don't know what to fix.
Get it together. We have a high production program here that we're running. Yeah, so what are your thoughts on the whole ATF director guy?
I think it's pretty cool. I get like wanting to appear, as like like in town, there's like always like one cop that's like cool. All the rest of them are absolute turds, but like there's like
Yeah,
one
his
cop
name is
that you
Central
kinda get
Sands
along with him.
Defense.
Yeah, Central Sands Defense. That's him.
He's
But
like the
like
one good guy.
there's like one cool cop that you're like, man, if I ever get pulled over, I hope it's by that guy because like the guy's cool. He likes being at community events and stuff like that. And he's always talking to everybody, and everybody knows him and likes him. I feel like he's trying to pull like that kind of move. It's like, yeah, everybody hates the ATF and make shirts that say that we're gay and stuff like that. But I'm gonna try to be, like the good cop, so that maybe we get some of that support back. Maybe it's a personal thing, like it would make him feel bad if people didn't think he was cool, so he's gonna, despite running one of the shittiest agencies in the government.
Yeah, it's
He's
like
gonna be like the cool guy at top and make people like it.
it's like the soldiers, giving candy to the kids
Yeah, like winning
over
hearts and minds.
overseas right before they like bombed their homes and like blew them into like millions of pieces in a drone
They
strike.
killed their dad, their uncle, their cousins.
Yeah.
Here's a crunch bar kid. Get lost.
This is a Jolly Rancher.
Bro, a Jolly Rancher would absolutely boggle a Middle Eastern child's mind.
Dude. Yeah. And then here comes the drone strike. So yeah, my whole
There's more where that came from. The drones or the candy? Both.
Yeah. I'm just gonna co-sign. All my thoughts can be summed up in a single tweet from an extremely base individual.
Sam Hyde.
No, I have a Sam Hyde clip coming later in the show. But this tweet right here sums up how I feel about everything ATF. It's from Charlie Cox. He says, just want to throw this out there. The new ATF director is not cool or good or anything like that. He is still an ATF agent. The ATF has a history of murdering Americans over a right, including women and children. They would gladly kick in your door as well. The lesser of two evils is still evil. F the ATF. And yes, that's how I feel about the whole situation.
Yeah.
ATF is still an evil organization.
They're still gay.
Just because the guy that's in there right now is
appears cool.
A token cool uncle guy. It's not like it's gonna overall be a good thing for gun owners. They still hate gun owners, no matter what.
It's like, bro, if your uncle rapes you, but then he buys you an Xbox 360, does that make up for the rapings that he gives you?
That is a good analogy for what
I know.
It really is. Yeah. ATF is still the ATF. Like, dude, this camera.
What did that do?
Bro, that was the FBI logging into my camera as we speak.
Does a little downwards reset, and it's like, all right, we gained access.
Dude, it literally was like someone just hacked into it. That was freaky, actually. Yeah. So that's how I feel about that, and that's been going around. So that would be the first order of stuff that I want to talk about for gun news. And then the second one just popped up as we were preparing the thumbnail. So I'm going to share this picture from Instagram. This comes from Gun Quality Enforcement. I saw some other pictures of this before. Here it is. Okay. So this is a letter from HK going to their distributors. So it says, "Dear valued distributors, dealers, sales representatives, on behalf of the entire Heckler & Koch USA team, we would like to extend our sincere gratitude for your continued partnership, support, and commitment to products and brand. Due to unprecedented customer demand across global markets, combined with ongoing impact of international conflicts and the resulting pressures on production capacity and supply chains, H&K USA has made their decision to temporarily close order books for our highly sought-after MR556 and SP5 series products. This decision was not made lightly, yada, yada, yada. Essentially, F you, distributors and customers. If you were wanting to get more HK highly sought after MR556 and SP5s. You are SOL until 2027. So another instance of HK giving you the big middle finger, as they love to do, and as we lose Mitchell. This is my reaction to HK giving their customers in the US the middle finger yet again. It's Mitchell's face right now. Just pure disgust. And this was super timely actually, because I just made a post about another overrated guns thing on IG and clowning like all the guns that are like $3,500 versus like Super Duty Mod 1A, and it being $1,000 cheaper than all these guns and just offering better stuff. So that was quite the timely drop that I had on there as we completely lose Mitchell. So it's just on my face. So hope you guys like staring directly into my eyeballs. Yeah, HK, not fantastic. And the next section is going to be like the meat and potatoes of this episode is going to be like talking about Gen X and like Civil War type stuff. And dude, Central Sands, we might need you if we can't get Mitchell back here. Just unbelievable. I might have to invite him again. Let me pull up the video quick that we're going to get into. But before we get into like the Civil War talk, I don't know if you guys like watched this speech from the Patriot Front dudes. I don't really know what to think about these guys, to be honest, but have you guys heard of like Patriot Front and like know anything about them? It seems like it's picking up quite some steam. Wisconsin 7th. I'm going to look that up real quick, Bullock, while we wait for the marvelous frozen boy here. I'm going to send him another invite quick. My PC keeps killing itself. Dog! I'm going to call him live.
I'm trying.
You're trying?
I'm trying.
All right. I sent the invite to the Discord.
Oh my gosh, my mouse is doing the same thing it was. I hate this. I hate this so much.
Okay, well, I'm just going to start the next thing while we wait for you. Get my camera to stop moving. How do I get this? All right, I hate this camera. The camera and me are not going to get along until like the end of time, I think. Let's see, 7th Federal District. Even better. Okay. Let's take a quick look at this here. Federal court upholds Illinois' assault weapons ban. A Supreme Court takes up issues. The U.S. Court of Appeals has upheld Illinois' assault weapons and large capacity magazine ban after U.S. Supreme Court decided it will soon take up the issue of weapons bans. So essentially, yes, liberal hellscapes banning ARs and magazines. So, yeah, and this is something the Supreme Court is going to address in the fall, allegedly. And this goes back to like the last episode where we talked about means that every state in the 7th district would fall under this ruling until SCOTUS makes its decision. So that is that saying that it's being temporarily like held off until the Supreme Court makes a decision? What this is telling me here? Well, Cook County State Attorney's Office said in a statement, "We will not back down from defending Cook County's long-standing ban on assault weapons. These weapons of war are designed to inflict the maximum amount of carnage and destruction and have no place in our communities. Countless victims have already endured the devastating impact of gun violence. We will defend this lawful ordinance before the nation's highest court, continue protecting the people of Cook County." I wonder if crime has gone down at all in that time where they banned assault weapons. Coincidentally, if we just look at, a certain demographic and how well they adhere to laws, I think we can all agree that this has absolutely zero impact on crime whatsoever. And yeah, Bullboxing means the current law stand in Illinois, and if Wisconsin passes one. So is this applying to Wisconsin? And here's the thing. Even if it does pass, like this is what we're going to talk about later on in the episode. Like this stuff doesn't matter. Like it's all a violation of the Second Amendment and the Constitution, whatever the Constitution is. Like the Constitution is just something that the government wipes their ass with and throws in our face whenever it works for them. Like I'm not going to just turn in my stuff. It's just I don't think Wisconsin will pass it either. And even if they did, who cares? Like there's already certain states are getting around it. People doing like the 10-round, 30-round magazine thing. Like, it's just a joke, is what it is. Clear violation of the Second Amendment. Whatever the Second Amendment means to you these days, like it's just a joke. All this stuff is just a joke. And Illinois is still the most crime-ridden place in the world. And it's because you just, let blacks off on a slap of the wrist when they try to burn down City Hall and when they get arrested 15 times armed robbery and such. Why would they stop doing crime? Why would they just stop buying guns illegally? It will change nothing. It will change nothing. Now, I'm trying to delay as much as I can, waiting for the young lad to get back in here. Oh. He made it. Odds on whether or not his mic works or not. It's not looking good, folks. It's not looking good. Bro, what is going on? This is a joke of a program here. Hello? Speak.
Hello?
Oh! Whoa!
Are we good?
Yeah, I think so.
Dude, I had to go fight off Bibi Netanyahu. Bro, he was coming for me.
Did he almost get you?
Bibi Netanyahu and his death squad of Israeli carrying goons came to get me, but they were too slow because, of course, they were Israeli carrying. So we're all good now. I'm alive.
What are you trying to say here?
Don't carry your gun without a round in the chamber if you're carrying.
Did you catch anything we just talked about?
Yes, I've been watching since I've been gone, so I could pick back up.
Any thoughts? Any impertinent things you'd like to say?
So, in between my scrambling and my freak out here, so the Seventh Circuit upheld the. Listen, dude, if you want to give $100, I'll take it to buy a new mouse. So the Seventh Circuit upheld Illinois' assault weapons ban.
Yeah,
is what I caught, and basically, Boltlock, you're under the impression that it's going to affect Wisconsinites as well.
Well, there's some controversy. I wouldn't say controversy. We have thoughts that Wisconsin will never pass one because it's too conservative, and
it's too white here. We'd have to get a lot more ethnics in here for those tides to shift.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I think it's just liberals in general. Not that it matters.
Who causes all the gun crime that makes these liberals freak out, though? It ain't me.
No. It's all the troons that shoot up schools, and then all the blacks who shoot up each other. So,
if you think about it, it's kind of pro-life of the left to think like that. If you really think about it.
It's like, what?
If you think about it, it's almost pro-life.
Almost.
Almost.
So, The next part. Enough about rules and such. Gay rules, faking
just
gay rules.
real quick though, to follow up on your point, no, it won't impact any of us. I don't believe, simply because I'm not turning anything in. Bouncing.
Yeah, at some point you got to draw a line.
Well, I mean, I was listening to Tom Foe's video earlier, where he was talking about like the only time the Constitution is used is against you. So why do we care? The Constitution is simply just a piece of paper that outlines to the government that these are rights given to us as people inherently by God. So don't touch those. That's all it is. It doesn't grant you rights or anything like that. So as far as the Constitution goes, I think of it more so as like a cool historical piece more than anything of value per se. So regardless of what the Constitution says, I don't quite care. I know what my rights are as a human, so if you want to try to take those away, go ahead. I don't care what your paper says.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into impertinent towards the video that I really want to go through and comb through at the end, and that is specifically talking about civil war, federal government versus state government, all that stuff. That'll be at the end. But as a little appetizer to that video, did you see the Patriot Front speech?
I did not.
Do you?
I seen the pictures of them on the bus or whatever. That's all I really saw of them this week.
Okay, so let's watch this speech. I don't know who this guy is. I didn't really pay attention to Patriot Front all that much. But there was a lot of talk going around about the speech, and they have like a little bit of being Fed jacketed, which
they all are
completely understandable. But yeah, I'm just gonna pull up this video and then we'll kind of react to it as we go here. So I'll probably just go through most of it and then we'll just react to it. Freaking.
While many are content to celebrate independence on this day, we know what these vapid displays conceal. Our people are not independent. Our destiny is shackled to 100 competing nations imported to this soil, bringing with them countless incompatible interests. Our homeland has been turned into a squalid arena of profiteers and invaders, overseen by a spineless cast of traitorous politicians. We wish for sovereignty and liberty which cannot coexist with the conditions that have been forced on us. A quarter millennia has now passed since America's violent birth, and nothing I can say will glorify independence more than the blood of our forebears that stains this continent, consecrating it forever with the immortal legacy of the men who died for so noble an objective as sovereignty. So we stand on the turning of an age and the making or breaking of our nation's destiny, and we must ask ourselves, under the watchful gaze of history, what is to be done? So dire is our circumstance, so extreme is our condition of peril, that the only way to secure our existence is to become all that we aspire to be. A defeated people was cast into this pit of a century, yet a nation exalted above all the rest will climb out of it. This is our task. Our national independence was seized by a natural aristocracy of our people, by the best of our Anglo-Saxon blood, waging war against tyranny to restore their ancient rights, not solely for themselves, but to bequeath it to their people.
He's getting close with the arm.
Now, regime
He's getting
after
close.
regime, tainted with corruption, has wrestled
He's
this
flirting with
sovereignty
it.
away piece by piece and placed it in the hands of the few and the foreign. Our liberty as Americans is squandered upon the unassimilable masses. They know not how to use it, and we are done trying to teach them. While the state has spent priceless years and countless fortunes attempting to educate and civilize our ethnic replacements, true Americans have been not behind, but subjected to endless abuse, unbefitting the heirs of this continent. The men of our nation, their hearts and minds and virtues are the safest place within which to secure the ultimate power of government, yet neither do our people hold this power, nor are they yet capable of wielding it justly. If we want our country back, we cannot merely speak of policy. We cannot just propose change. We must first impose it upon ourselves. You may read our policy on the calluses of our hands, the scars on our backs, and the sweat of our brow. The future belongs to the men with iron in their blood and patriotism in their heart. We may not look to America's military might, its material wealth, for its depth of natural resources, for our shield against subjugation. All this and more has been turned against us, fueling the flames of corruption and disunity. No, it is in our people that we must look. That fealty for liberty that rests only within the blood and spirit of the race which created America and sustains it still, in this and none other lies our salvation. I could list the enemies of our people, from the Jewish cabals to the Mexican cartels, from the African criminals to the homosexual peddlers of vice and exploitation. But I would not desanctify this day further with their description. Their conduct is set, their fates are written. This day is for Americans. It is on our shoulders that the fate of the nation rests. It is our deeds which will bring justice and prosperity. It is our identity which must be reclaimed. We are American, not by edict or ideal, but by blood. Our nation is our creed. Tyranny is so entrenched, corruption is so widespread that we harbor no thought that we will save this nation without America's enemies offering us chance after chance to prove our conviction with deed and action. Wisely, we do not wish for ease in our conquests, and bravely we do not ask for it. A lesser task would have fallen to lesser men. We wish for nothing less and nothing short than a revolution, a time of fast change, and an outlook of undaunted courage towards the future. The vice that has infested our land will be expunged. The foreigners which have invaded our land will be expelled, and the Americans, who have so long suffered the fate of a defeated people, will be saved. We endeavor ceaselessly to reforge the lives of men, to steel them to their purpose, and awaken within them the strength to do what this era demands of them. On this day once more, louder than ever, we declare our resistance as a promise to our people and a challenge to our foes. We renew our pledge upon the altar of this sacred day of eternal hostility against all that which threatens the existence of our people. For the life of our nation! For the liberty of our people! For the victory of the American spirit! Life! Liberty! Victory! Life! Liberty! Victory! Life! Liberty! Victory!
All right.
All right, I'm on board.
It's certainly
I'm on board. That hyped me up, actually, dude. I'm not gonna lie. That kind of got me hyped.
it certainly is definitely more rah-rah. It's certainly more like Austrian painter coated. But my whole thoughts on it is like, specifically, I've been doing a lot of research on, not research, just looking at the similarities between like the Weimar era, Weimar Germany to today, because I want to do like a more specific video on that and the similarities.
It is
And
very scarily similar.
it is it's the more you look into it, the more scarily similar it is in a way, like like whatever you think about, like, you know, the H-man and Nazis and all that. I know we get like talked to death about Nazis, like it's everything's Nazi these days. And whatever your feelings are about that, if you look at the similarities, like we're almost like just asking for that to happen again.
Yeah.
And this is what the like generation young white men in America, like this is the only option that America's giving them right now. Like
when young men are out of options in the more civilized means of conflict resolution, this is what happens. We've seen it in Rome with Caesar. We see it in Weimar Germany. We see it in the French Revolution, and we see it today. History repeats itself, and here we are again. The circle has come back around.
History is very cyclical, and we are doomed to repeat history if we don't change something. Something has to change. And I don't know, like, obviously it's a meme, it's a joke, and like there's certain aspects of stuff like that in the Weimar Revolution and Nazi Germany that, you know, it's dangerous to go down the road, I think, to be like to sympathize like too deep into that, because obviously there's some bad things with that. But like you're almost like you don't want a young generation of young men to fall for a leader that is going to go down the wrong path, you know.
Yes,
Which,
but what are the other options? Continuing on this path and watching
No,
the future
no.
be stolen from your children and grandchildren?
I am trying to.
That's kind of like what like the Nazis. I mean, that's what I thought of when I was listening to that speech. Is I don't know if you've listened to Hitler's.
It sounded a lot. It sounded
English
a lot
speeches. It sounded very similar, and they're talking about very similar things. And those things resonate with how men felt back in the day and how young men feel today.
Certainly.
Your nation has been stolen from you. Your future has been stolen from you. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to let it rot? Or are we going to figure this out?
It's
and of course, nobody wants it to get to that point. But again, when you leave no other options on the table, this is what happens.
And here, I'll show the comments. It's you'd want to like, I don't know. I'm trying to be like careful of like, obviously I don't want the channel to get like completely like nuked off the internet. And I don't want to be disingenuous to be like, you know, we need another Hitler.
No, but we do need a strong leader that is going to say, "Hey, listen, the way this place has been run ain't it. We're changing it."
the reason why I'm being careful, because it's like you don't want to be like, the whole idea of like Fed jacketing people is, on one hand, I think there's definitely like certain groups of people out there who like want young men to go down that road of, like having widespread like Nazi stuff. Like if all young white men just like fully went down that road, like that would get taken advantage of, in my opinion. Like it's something that like the powers that be, they want that to happen so they can use that as a scapegoat to gain more control. If, let's say violence breaks out or whatever, they would use that as a reason to garner more control and tighten the vice on the American people. And so that's why there's definitely feds within that group. On the other hand, it is a strategy for people to be like, oh, they're feds, and like completely
disregard it.
Delegitimize the movement.
Absolutely.
So like there's a line you got to skirt there, I believe. Like the idea, like there's no questioning anymore where we're at in America. It is Weimar 2.0. Like we are in the beginning stages of that. Like the similarities, they're right there. Like it's and
the
I don't want to
dominoes
go.
are set, and somebody just needs to push them over.
I don't want to talk too much about it because I want to do like a full, like dedicated, like in-depth video on it. So I don't want to like go too far down the road, and also we need to get to the other video here, but it is a good point to make for people, especially young men. We are at the stage where like the political system, the way it's set up, it's gone. Like the America that we were sold growing up is dead. There is no saving it. Like it's not possible. Even if it was possible to save it, like I'm not sure I would even really want to, because that's all the fingers are too dug in. The fingers of corruption and foreign influence is so ingrained and deep into the system. I don't even think it's fixable at this point. You are not going to vote your way through it. And the federal government does not play by the rules. So us, the people, we have to stop playing by their rules as well. And I think there's wrong ways to do that, and there's smart ways to do that. It's just finding that balance of where to go. So Bullocks, media would have found out who these guys were if they were feds. If they weren't feds by now.
Yes, but on the flip side, it's damaging as well to think that literally everybody is a fed. That's the psychological game that they play, is try to convince everybody that everybody else is a fed, so that way meaningful coalition can't form because everybody's too busy being freaked out about each other to focus on the real task at hand.
Yes.
It's a very good psychological warfare game.
It is. They're smart. And that's the other thing I want to get to when we talk about the
I think that
Weimar 2.0 video is like, yes, it's very similar, but like, we all know who they is.
Who is they, though?
we know who they is and the they that we're talking about. They've also gone through the same thing, so they know the direction it's heading. So they've learned from that as well, and they're going to use different strategies as well, like the Fed jacketing thing. That's a strategy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and I think that just comes as a natural consequence from the like the internet age that we live in too, is especially with things like AI and Photoshop and stuff like that, deep fakes. It's so hard to tell nowadays what's real, what's not. And so it just is preying on our inherently skeptical minds that we have nowadays, not being able to trust everything we see on the internet. We can't trust anybody. And so it's a very easy tool for them to use or distrust against us because we're already paranoid looking out for things that are fake and deceptive and stuff like that already. And so making us paranoid that, oh, everybody's a Fed. Look, it's the feds. They're trying to get people riled up so that they can arrest them. It's like, well, there are real people out there that are not feds that feel that way. So is everybody that feels that way a Fed, or
obviously not, because it wouldn't be gaining momentum.
Yeah, exactly.
If there was a truth, like that dude, realistically, he could be a Fed.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't change the fact that he's mostly what he said was true.
Yeah, the words that came out of his mouth were not lies.
If he was lying, and if it was like a straight up like, saying things that aren't true, because I feel like we like grew up hearing about like Nazis and white supremacists, like they're everywhere.
Yeah, they're like the boogeyman.
And like you never ran into one ever until like recent times.
Yeah, when problems have gotten bad enough to where those people start existing.
Right. It's like they talked about the problem so much it
manifested itself.
It manifested itself. Right. Not to say that certain things in certain ideals aren't correct. Because I do think there's certain groups of people who are just evil. Yeah. And evil has no place in the world. And it's our duty as men to defend future generations from evil. And that is the hard stop.
The one thing I'll leave that with is I don't know this guy and who he is, what he believes and stuff like that. The only thing that could have like perfected that was bringing a message of Christ into the picture too, because that's ultimately what is going to bring us success in this endeavor. Is if the ideals and the beliefs and the aims that we have for the new right or whatever are not focused on Christ, then it's ultimately not going to be a worthwhile endeavor.
No,
because it's only through His power that we'll even remotely be successful.
No, and you should be paying attention to things like on the other side of the coin of like, okay, like you shouldn't be like, Fed jacketing people and just because people say that they're feds, all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. You should also be like cautious and just pay attention. Like you don't have to completely disregard people right off the bat, but you should also just pay close attention, because I think I can speak for both of us here when like I say that we don't just blindly promote hating based off of, demographics or whatever.
Yeah.
Or just
Unless you're a troon.
like face value things. There's certain things that are just, it's not clear cut across the board, like race. Like obviously there's good people and there's bad people. There's definitely certain demographics that have a lot more bad people than good people, but that doesn't mean everyone in said demographic is a bad person, and you shouldn't blindly just hate everyone from said demographic because they're in that group.
Unless you live in Tel Aviv, the pedophile capital of the world.
That is a different story.
Hey,
And
hey. You know, you were always taught in school that the Nazis burned books, but they never told you what kind of books they were burning. You should look into that.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the great nosing has happened. And I can't say, and this is why we need to do a Rumble exclusive, because I can't say my full opinion on that, because I'll get raided in the middle of the night tonight, and they'll shoot my dog and my children in the head while they're sleeping, and I don't want that, so I can't say my full opinion on here. But we will do a Rumble exclusive where we speak freely on that topic. And what I'll say now is it's not all of them, but it's always them.
It's a lot. Listen, pattern recognition is an inherent survival instinct that's deeply coded into our brains. It's there for a reason.
Just because you're, born in a certain place doesn't make you a bad person, or you're born in a certain race doesn't make you a bad person. But if you go down the road of,
speaking of going down,
if you are practicing a certain religion that believes that basically is worshiping Satan, then yeah, I hate you, because I hate evil. And that's all there is to it. If you're practicing an evil religion, then yes.
Yeah, don't worship Satan. It's bad for your soul.
But yeah, there's a lot of things that we can say, and that we're gonna have to save that for a Rumble exclusive. But we know.
Go follow us on Rumble.
Yeah, follow us on Rumble. But we will talk about that in a deeper dive episode. But let's talk about more stuff here. And I'm sure that topic is going to come up in this video as well. So what this next video is this is Nick Freitas. I don't know if
I've heard his name, and I think I've seen some of his videos.
You've definitely seen this guy. He's like an influencer now. He used to be a politician of some type. I think he was.
Yeah, I think I get some videos or clips or whatever pop up in my Facebook feed every once in a while.
But the crux of this video is that he is a Gen X. He's a Gen Xer.
Ew.
Former
people.
Former politician. But he has some thoughts on how the next Civil War will start. And basically what is kicked off and this video is a couple years old, and I don't disagree with everything he says. From the stuff I've seen about him, he seems like a good dude. I would say on face value, me and him probably agree on 90% of everything. He's very right-wing conservative type guy. And he has a lot of solid opinions on homeschooling, guns, all that stuff. But the thing that I disagree with, and the thing that I'm trying to fight against the idea that people like they cannot let go of fighting for what's right through the political system, the federal political system as it stands currently. And all the points that he makes sound good, but realistically, it's just not possible. And he makes a lot of good points, and then he like completely misses the point towards the end. So we're gonna kind of like I'm not gonna go through the whole video, but we're gonna like kind of chew through a lot of the video because he says a lot of things that are just like inherently just don't make total sense. But you'll kind of get it. I'm gonna play through all of it at like 1.5 speed, so we're not like tying up like 3 hours at a time because it's kind of a long video, and I'm gonna skip through some parts. But the whole point of his video here is what started this video for him, and he'll talk about at the beginning is Democrats and having a plan for going into like 2029 if they get power in 2029 and
2028.
whatever, but they get voted into office, officially take office in 2029. But like the plans that they are talking about doing, like making DC a state and Puerto Rico a state, and then essentially taking over the Supreme Court and just totally effing up everything for everyone. And so we'll just go through it and we'll kind of break it down, but he's going to explain it better than I just did. So here we go. Yes, Bullock, they are going to win 2028.
Okay, it seems like if you're a conservative podcaster, then it's like you've got to posit whether or not we're going to have another civil war. And a lot of people do this kind of hyperbolically. They do it because it's easy clickbait. That's not what I want to do today. I actually want to look at what are the conditions and the potential catalysts necessary for a civil war to kick off. And the reason why I think this conversation is relevant right now is because of things that certain James Carville said very recently. Because James Carville laid out a Democrat strategy that very well could create the kind of conditions or the potential catalysts which could lead to, let's just say, outright civil war in the United States. To be more specific, Carville and his co-host Al Hunt on the Politics War podcast were taking questions from listeners on an episode released Thursday. One asked whether Democrats should, quote, flood the zone with a corrective implementation policy using the majority to simultaneously enact a myriad of structural changes to, quote, save our democracy and preserve our rights if Democrats return to power in 2029. And Hunt said, I've got some thoughts about what Democrats should do when they return to power in 2029, but I haven't thought it through thoroughly yet. I'm really focused on what they should do when they win the House and maybe the Senate in 2027. Carville, on the other hand, offered a more aggressive plan of action. Carville said, if the Democrats win the presidency in both houses of Congress, I think on day one, they should make Puerto Rico and DC a state, and they should expand the Supreme Court to 13. F it, eat our dust. Now, there's going to be some people that say, Nick, he's just engaging in hyperbolic language, happens all the time in politics. Here's the deal. While Carville is known as the Raging Cajun and everything else, Carville was never considered like some sort of hyper Antifa type, woke progressive. Now, Carville was the guy that really put together the strategy for the Clinton campaign in '94, talking about it's the economy stupid. He's always been this guy that, for lack of a better term, he's had something more of a moderating influence on the Democratic Party, not because he himself is, a total moderate, but simply because he understands how elections work. And he's generally looked at the United States as a country where, regardless of, how Democrat he may be, he recognizes that roughly half the country is not. And so you have to actually appeal to more than your own base in order to win elections. But what he's talking about here is basically an FU to half the country. He doesn't care anymore. And again, this is because he's bought into the same idea that this is all about, quote, saving our democracy. And again, our democracy probably doesn't include a lot of people like me, for instance. It might not include a lot of the people that are actually watching this program. He's got a certain conception of how the world should be and how the United States should be. And the bottom line is he sees Trump, he sees MAGA, he sees kind of the burgeoning right-wing conservative movement as a threat to all of that. And so we no longer get the same consideration that, say, Republicans would have gotten from him 30 years ago, 25 years ago, et cetera. But the things that he's specifically talking about doing, they would, in effect, create the sort of structural change that the person asking the question was positing. It's like, if you actually add Puerto Rico and DC, well, then yes, you're going to pick up 4 Democrat seats. It's going to be almost impossible for the Republicans to not just win those seats, but to ever take back the Senate again. If you stack the Supreme Court with 13 justices, which means an incoming President Kamala Harris or an incoming President Gavin Newsom would have the ability to pick 4 more Ketanji Browns to serve on the Supreme Court, well, now you have a Supreme Court that will essentially come to any decision that you would want. It's not the first time this has been tried. My whole last episode was talking about what it would actually take to do these things. And here was the conclusion. It's like, if you wanted to make Puerto Rico a state overnight, if you wanted to make DC a state overnight, you would probably have to amend the Constitution, so you can't. And if you wanted to stack the Supreme Court, you could. And here's the kicker. If you stack the Supreme Court correctly, you can essentially get whatever decision you want. So even those of us looking at it going, well, you couldn't achieve that because the Constitution prevent. If he gets 4 more Ketanji Browns on the Supreme Court, he gets whatever decision he wants out of the Supreme Court. And again, I articulated this yesterday, where the Supreme Court in the 40s actually decided that the federal government had the authorization to regulate your garden. Because if you grew wheat on your own property for your own consumption, you might not go to the store to buy wheat, which came from a different state, which impacts interstate commerce clause, which means the federal government can intervene. That's the sort of reasoning they will use to get to anything that they want. And so, okay, what's the remedy for that? Because if you look at how our Constitution came about in the first place, it's not as if the federal government just came forth out of the ether and decided to put restrictions and wrote itself the supremacy clause and decided it was in charge and all the states were supporting it. No, the states came together and said, we're going to have this convention. Originally, it was just to amend the Articles of Confederation. It wasn't even to set up this new federal apparatus. But nevertheless, that's what happened through the constitutional conventions and through the various states ratifying that convention. And so it's important to understand that the federal government is a creation of the states. Like when these people talk about, one person, one vote, we're a democracy. No, we are a federalist constitutional republic, which uses democratic processes to both select representatives and for those representatives to vote with respect to legislation. That's what we are. We are a republic of republics. Each individual state is actually its own republic. And yes, we all fall under the jurisdiction of the federal government, but the federal government is supposed to be limited according to Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, where it actually lays out the various powers of Congress. And it talks about the duties and responsibilities of the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature.
So this is really that was just the intro to the video, and this is kind of like the juxtaposition that the theme throughout this entire video is whenever you talk to someone who's like a Gen Xer or someone who really believes in like the GOP, or they just cannot get out of the mindset of like the GOP, like we have to elect representatives that are going to vote on certain things this way. Like they just cannot get out of that mentality, that they just cannot fathom that there's something else. There's a different option available, essentially. And that is kind of like the whole theme of this video, and that is the setup. And we're just going to skip forward here a little bit, but so far, do you have anything to add to what he said there?
No, from your take is pretty much what I gained from it. Is this guy, I get what he's saying. However, he's stuck in the mindset that the government even gives a rat's ass about how it's supposed to be structured.
Yes, and that's kind of like, yeah, that is the whole point, and we're gonna like talk through that as the video goes through, but that's kind of the setup. And keep in mind, he is a conservative, and there's certain topics that he will dance around, and refuse to talk about, and that's because he is a influencer. And he's a former politician, and there's just certain subjects that you just refuse to acknowledge. But we'll get into that, and we'll kind of like talk through why you should just not have that mentality. So he'll go through the next section, which is like talking about examples of when situations like this, how states standing up to the federal government and stuff like that, and we'll kind of like go through that stuff. What in the heck is that noise?
Sir, it's my fan. It's tremendously hot down here. You hear it?
No, not anymore. How do you beat
the left if we divide? That's the part I always get stuck on about getting out of the two-party system. Well, there's a very easy solution. Is we elect a monarch, and then he says what goes, and anybody that does not do that gets thrown in prison.
I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. I think I think the problem is like you have to get out of the mentality of, Democrat versus Republican or right versus left.
You have to get out of the idea of democracy in general. Democracy
Yes.
is a very, in the grand scheme of human existence, democracy, or the way we have it set up now, is incredibly new. And I think that, from our point of view, this is all we've known. But kings and monarchs and czars and sultans and stuff have been how nations have been ruled forever. So
Yes.
this idea that we have where, we get to choose our leaders is very new and very rare in human existence. And so it's not like nations can't be run by a single party or a single ruler or whatever. We just don't comprehend it because we have never experienced it.
I think for me, the deeper issue is like, defeating the left. Like liberal ideology is rooted in Satanism. If you talk to a leftist and their ideals, their power comes from numbers, like just sheer numbers, doesn't matter. And that is why we have an influx of immigrants and feminism. And ultimately, if you uproot those two things, the left will just die. The left cannot exist without feminism and foreign immigrants flooding whatever section that they currently hold power over. If you just took away like women's voting, there would be no liberal candidates of any kind anywhere. So it's not a right versus left thing. The left will eat itself. The left cannot stand on its own. And we see that in Democrat cities across the U.S. They have gone to shit because the left cannot stand on its own because it is insustainable. It's an insustainable way to run a country. It will just eat itself. So it's not necessarily like we have to defeat the left.
We just have to destroy their ideals.
We have to destroy the levers of power that they have, or make them irrelevant.
That's the only way or reason that they have any kind of. It's kind of the only reason we have these problems to begin with is because they hold the levers of power. If those levers of power go away, or they go away, well, we don't have those issues anymore.
Yeah, the leftist ideology.
Because your enemy, like you may, I'm saying you as in just general people on the right, especially like conservatives and stuff like that, they are scared to wield the levers of power because, well, they're pussies, but they also are just it's unbecoming to use power against your opponents. However, that's how the entirety of human existence has been, is using the levers of power against your opponents to crush them. So because we're too scared to do that, because we believe that we're more civilized than that, well, then you're just going to get them used against you.
Well, if you look at it like at face value, if you typical leftist, typical conservative, the leftist just wants control. They just want to impose their ideals upon you because it's a cult. Okay?
Yeah.
They want power and they will do anything to gain power. It doesn't matter what their ideology is, or their ideals that they're imposing on someone else, they just want to impose it. So to force you to be in their cult. The typical conservative, their ideals are rooted in morality. And morality tells us we shouldn't inflict harm upon people just because we want power. It goes against morality to do so. And so the left will not play by the rules because they are just seeking power at all costs. Whereas the conservatives just want to be left alone. And that's why you see the leftist ideals winning in this country, is because one side wants power at all costs, no matter the consequences, and the other side just wants to be left alone and to exist without being oppressed. And in order for everything to become more conservative and for morality to thrive and to be established in this country, it's unfortunately the regaining of that power is going to be ugly. And that's kind of the juxtaposition that we have in America. But we got to keep going through this video. So here's the next section.
That book club, you're going to love it. So what are the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions? Well, essentially what they were was an attempt by Thomas Jefferson and James Madison to talk about what were the proper remedies for the states to exercise if the federal government ever decided to vastly expand beyond its enumerated powers, which, spoiler alert, at this point it has. But this was as early as 1798. So it wasn't very long that the federal government was in power before they passed the Alien and Sedition Act. And the Alien and Sedition Act granted broad power to the federal government to essentially kick people out of the country. And some of the things that they were doing appeared to many of the founders to be clear violations of freedom of speech, but also clear expansions of federal power that were not granted to it by the Constitution. And to give you an idea, I'm going to read through this portion of the Virginia Resolution, which was specifically laid out by Jefferson. And it talks about how do states push back against the federal government when the federal government oversteps its boundaries. Because again, this theory that, well, as long as the Supreme Court says it's okay, doesn't make any sense. Let me give you an analogy. If you were to sign let's say you were to sign a mortgage, okay, and your lender comes and says, okay, well, the interest rate that you're going to sign for this is 6%. You have a 6% interest rate for 30 years. That's what it is. And then 2 years later, they come back and say, actually, it's 8% now. And you say, well, wait a second. No, it isn't. We signed a legal document whereby we agreed that it would be 6%, and now you're making it 8%. That's not right. I'm not paying that. And they say, okay, no problem. Let's adjudicate it in court. And he said, okay, fine. Who's going to be the judge? And they said, we are. You'd be like, no, you don't get to be the judge of what this contract said. There has to be an independent third party that can objectively look at it. Well, the problem is we don't have that in this situation, right? You have the Supreme Court, and then you have the states. You have the federal government, which was created by the Supreme Court. If the states have to go to the federal government to determine whether or not the federal government overstepped its boundaries, we can see some potential problems with that. Now, again, throughout much of history, you had Supreme Courts. Some made good rulings, some made bad ones. But there was a general understanding of what things like the 9th and 10th Amendment meant. There was generally understanding of what Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution meant. That has changed significantly in recent times. But the question is what do you do about it? And a couple of concepts of nullification and interposition entered into the American political lexicon. And these were mechanisms that states could use to push back against the federal government. So here in Virginia, resolved that the General Assembly of Virginia doth explicitly and preemptorily declare that it views the powers of the federal government as resulting from the compact to which the states are parties, as limited by the plain sense and intention of the instrument constructing that compact, as no farther valid than they are authorized by the grants enumerated in the compact. What are they saying there? It's like, we signed an agreement. You didn't create us. We created you. And when we joined this agreement, there were certain rules. And when you exercise authority outside of those boundaries, we're not obligated to hold on to that. We're not obligated to respect that. And then in case of a deliberate, palpable, and dangerous exercise of other powers not granted by the same compact, the states who are parties thereto have the right and are in duty bound to interpose for arresting the progress of the evil and for maintaining within the respective limits the authorities, rights, and liberties appertaining to them. So this is they're saying the states now. The states now have an obligation. Federal government, we told you what your limits were. We told you what your duties and responsibilities were. You've expanded beyond that. You're now saying that, well, we've determined that this is constitutional. The states disagree. The states are now going to interpose, which is to say we're not going to, it's kind of two levels. The first level is this idea of we're not going to respect the law that you've made. We're not going to see it as binding, which is to say that within the jurisdiction of our state, we do not recognize this federal law or federal authority. That's step one. It's just a refusal to comply or a refusal to help enforce. Because the dirty little secret here is the federal government doesn't have enough guys to enforce everything they want. They rely on states to cooperate, oftentimes through local law enforcement, local and state law enforcement. So this is them saying, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. And then what it really comes down to, what the practical effect of this is that the next step beyond just we're not going to enforce this and we don't recognize it is we're not going to allow the federal government to enforce it, which is to say we're not going to deploy the state militias. At that time, it would have been state militias, would theoretically be National Guard now, even though the president could just federalize the National Guard. We're going to use our state militias, our state law enforcement, our local law enforcement to resist you attempting to implement this. So let's say the federal government goes, fine, we understand we can't force you to enforce federal law, but we're going to send in the FBI, or we're going to send in the ATF, or we're going to send in the military, or whatever else it is, in order to carry this out. And the state says, okay, great, we're sending the state troopers, we're sending the state militia, we're sending the local sheriffs, and we're going to resist you. We're not going to allow you to do it. You're going to attempt to enforce this through force. We're going to go ahead and resist you with force. And that's where you get into conflict. Now, the question is, has this ever happened before? Obviously it has. It happened during the Civil War, where states essentially said, we think you're, in fact, at that point, the federal government hadn't even fully, they hadn't emancipated the slaves, they hadn't done anything like that, but the states thought it was so likely, and they had looked at other things with respect to tariffs, which they argued at times were unconstitutional. So they looked at this as, there's no reason for us to actually be a part of this union, because the values and the interests are so different as to make them overly competitive with one another, so they left. But that's not the only instance where things like this have happened. We've had various rebellions before where, again, even the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions were an attempt to try to push back against the Alien Sedition Act. You had the Whiskey Rebellion. You've had several different instances within U.S. history, many of them early on. But even since then, if you look at various forms of kind of like nullification or interposition, marijuana, right? When the federal government says that marijuana is a Schedule I drug, but when various states say you can sell it and you can buy it and you can smoke it for recreation, blah, 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 you don't see the federal government descending on them to try to take it over. Well, why not? Why aren't they rigorously trying to enforce federal law? And one of the answer for that is because it would be very difficult, it would be very costly, and because they would probably get a lot of pushback both from the people and the states. So even though the federal government hasn't changed their overall position, they don't enforce it. I'll give you another example, the border in Texas. When Governor Abbott said, I'm sending down the Texas National Guard and I'm sending down the Texas resources to enforce the border, the Supreme Court ruled, arguably accurately, that the border and immigration policy is the jurisdiction of the federal government. And so if they're telling the state to get out of there, they can do it. And that's what happened. And again, I don't think the justices were being incorrect. I think the justices were simply saying that if the question is the border and immigration policy the jurisdiction of the federal government, the answer is yes. Texas said, okay, fine, make us. Because Texas reminded them that, well, you don't just have the responsibility to do this, or you don't just have the authority to do this, you have the responsibility, you're not doing it. In fact, you're completely negating your responsibility, so we're going to do it. And if you really want to send down the FBI to remove us, be our guest, but we don't think you're going to do it. And the federal government kind of scaled back. So it's important to understand that numerous times within our history, sometimes for good reasons and sometimes for very, very bad reasons, states have pushed back against federal authority when they thought it was unconstitutional. And this is the
Very good points. I pretty much wholeheartedly agree with all that.
Well, here's the thing. The point that I want to make about the two points that he made there. Okay, he brought up marijuana and he brought up the border thing in Texas with Greg Abbott. Two good points on face value. And this goes to further the point of like, well, yes, it sounds nice in theory, right? To have the state wield some power against the federal government and be able to back off the federal government, and they're imposing their will upon said state. What we fail, or what he's failing to acknowledge there, especially when it comes to marijuana, why was that such a big deal for the federal government to not push that through? And why did they keep it Schedule I? What do you
I don't
think?
know, you tell me.
It's because the levers of power want you to be dull and stupid. And smoking weed is gay. So the federal government at the time that the whole weed thing was going on, conservatives, all it is just on face value, they just want to appear a certain way. The federal government isn't going to change that ruling on marijuana because they want to keep, especially conservatives, they want to keep this face. They want to look like they are anti-weed for the conservative voters. But they don't actually care whether or not you smoke weed or not, because the people who are currently controlling the government want you smoking weed. It's degenerate behavior. They want
don't-
you dull and retarded.
I think you're thinking in too deep about his point. I don't think his point was necessarily about like the problem of weed or anything like that. It was giving examples of states saying, "Hey, we're not doing this. You go ahead and try to stop us," which is
It's all fake. It's what I'm telling you. The reason why the marijuana was legalized in Democrat states is because Democrats want to smoke weed, and the leftists want it legalized because, you know, like free hippie love. It's degeneracy, and that's what they want. The federal government doesn't actually care. They just want the conservative voters. Same thing with the Democrat. The Democrat politicians, they want the Democrat votes, so they want to be like, oh, look, we legalized weed. Look how, you know, leftist, pro, you know, drugs we are. They're trying to get a certain demographic's vote. And same thing on the federal side. They can't legalize it because they want to keep the conservative vote. Everything is just same thing with Greg Abbott. To the next point, do we really think that Greg Abbott cares about Americans and border security? Honestly, no.
no. I mean,
Because
look
he's
at how many
importing-
Indians they have there.
He's going to like these H-1B visa like meetings talking about like how great Texas is going to be for Indians
Mhm.
and Indian workers. Do we honestly believe that Greg Abbott actually cares about American citizens? No, it's all bread and circuses. That's all it is. It's just a game of. It's just a freaking reality TV show. It was an opportunity for Greg Abbott to be like, oh, look how conservative I am. So he did the thing, knowing full well that the government was going to say something, the federal government was going to say something, and he knew full well he wasn't going to actually go through and do actually anything about that. It's just all a game of, oh, look at me, look at this thing I did, all to gain votes, to gain more power. And on the backside of that, open up the doors to Indians. For me personally, I'd rather have cartels running around than Indians. If we're being completely honest, like it's all games.
I agree. I agree with you. Like you are preaching to the choir here. However, I think again, while those are good points, his points are not those specific incidences and the nuanced details of them. It's the idea that if we were to have a civil war, it would be states saying no to the federal government imposing their power. Not necessarily the nuanced ideas of, oh yeah, Greg Abbott just did this because, you know, he wants to look good or whatever. It's the idea that if a state truly believes something, not saying that Greg Abbott actually believes that, you know, border security is such a great thing, because obviously he doesn't give a crap about his people. It's the idea that a state says no to the government, to the federal government. We're not doing this here. Come try us. It's relating back to the Civil War.
There's really not.
While
anything,
I agree with you, that's not. I don't think that's his point.
No, and I understand, like, there is technically rules and amendments saying that states can stand up to the federal government. My whole point is
It's not even states and rules. It's just how it is set up.
it's how it's set up.
Because we have state governments.
It doesn't actually work that way, though. Like, there is no.
It's because we haven't had to deal with it since the Civil War.
There is no separation anymore. All the money for these politicians is coming from the same place. All the people that control the federal government, they also control state level government. Does the
I
state
agree with
actually
you.
have any, like we're going to talk about with like the National Guard and stuff like that? Like the state actually can't really do anything.
No, but the people of the state can.
The people of the state can, for sure. Yeah. But the state
No,
cannot anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like the state governments, they're just as corrupt as the federal governments, one way or another. But it's the idea that a state could just say, no, we're not. We don't really care what you say, federal government.
They could.
It comes down to the people.
They could.
And it's much easier to do it on a smaller scale of a state or a city or a county versus everybody in the United States, all 350 million of us or whatever, doing it
Right.
all at once. It's easier to get.
We're losing him again. I think that was kind of the end of this point anyway. All right. So the next part that he talks about in this video is he pulls up this map and he talks about, red versus blue, all the things. And my point with the maps and stuff here is he goes into the whole like GOP argument of like, Democrat and Republican thing. Like anytime someone brings up, anytime someone starts saying, "Oh, it's the Democrats," "Oh, it's the Republican," I instantly tune out. Instantly, the conversation is over. Like, if you are still stuck in this way of thinking, it's a red versus blue thing. You're missing the point. You're just missing the point. And he goes on to like break down like even more things in here, and Constitution's talking about how like the cities are what is controlling everything, even though majority of America votes mostly conservative. Like he goes into this whole thing, and the whole point of this, the middle section here, which we're not even going to watch because it's a waste of time, is predicated on the idea of red versus blue, Republican versus Democrat, and the things in the Constitution, yada yada yada. And the clip that I was going to pull up in here cements how I feel about the current state of the Constitution. And that comes from a clip on Sam Hyde, because he says it way better than I ever possibly could. So I'm going to show that to you guys now. And this is honestly 1 minute of pure truth from someone looking at everything from the outside. We have Mitchell back here.
Guys, I'm so sorry for my computer churning out and killing itself like every 5 minutes.
Well, you didn't miss much. I was just going over how like the middle section is not really worth watching because he goes into the whole red versus blue thing like we just talked about.
Yeah, I was watching on my phone.
Okay, you listened. Okay, so
Yeah.
this clip from Sam Hyde, I forget which episode it is from on his show. Great show. If you don't watch his show, you should, because it's hilarious. He's so funny. But he does have some very profound thoughts, and he's really good about summing up everything into like, what's the word I'm looking for? Digestible like thoughts. And it's just a pure minute of truth. So this is the state of the Constitution and what it means in America today.
The Constitution has failed. I don't care about some fucking piece of paper. I don't. I went to high school. I learned about the Constitution. I know about the Holocaust and slavery. I saw it in a movie. I know about the Constitution. I saw that in the movies too. But in real life, it would appear that the Constitution is a fucking toilet rag that only gets thrown in our faces when it can be used against us, when it can be used to fuck with us, to make us poor, to displace us in our neighborhoods, to help us lose our jobs, to make it so that the jobs don't exist. That's when the Constitution is defended the most effectively, is when it can be used to make you ineffective. It's an artifact from a completely different planet. It's from a white country that was run by white Christian men.
And the clip's longer, but I only have so much of it that I can show or whatever. But that is a really good summarization of the Constitution today. Like we have to get rid of this idea that the Constitution. The government doesn't care about the Constitution. How many amendments are violated on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Do we really have the First Amendment in America today? No, we don't. Because, like we've seen in this episode, there's certain things that we cannot say that are 100% truthful on this show live right now without repercussions.
Yeah, and
without getting silenced.
It's like what I said a lot of this earlier, very similar things to what Sam was just saying there. It's like, he's exactly right. The Constitution only matters to the government when they can use it against you.
Yes.
Look at what we just talked about last week with the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship. We just talked about it.
Yes.
So how many times do we get constitutional wins in courts and stuff like that, like the Supreme Court or the justice system in general, versus how many times we're panicking because the government is about to do something absolutely retarded, and we say, "Oh, but the Constitution." So who cares, bro? They don't give a rat's ass. They don't care.
Yeah, like we just talked about last week.
So you shouldn't care either.
The birthright citizenship thing, like you're saying. And what is the next thing that they're going to vote on? Whether or not the Second Amendment applies to AR-15s. Whether or not the right of the people to keep and bear arms, meaning firearms, they have to vote on whether or not that applies to firearms. That's the big vote that's coming up in the Supreme Court. They have to somehow agree on whether or not firearms means firearms. Like Second Amendment, constantly. The Fourth Amendment, how many amendments do we actually really have in practice today in America?
Drive down any city street, any road in your county, and look at all the flock cameras lining up alongside them.
Yes.
What does the Fourth Amendment mean anymore? Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Not to mention your phone right here. It's listening to you.
It's listening
right now.
To you. Like, we were just talking about it. I was talking to Bo about, getting my new Benchmade that I got used, sending off to Benchmade to go get sharpened. And here they are giving me ads for it and stuff like that. It's listening constantly. And it's not just Facebook that's listening. It's everybody else.
Your data is being sold. everything you do on the internet, everything you talk about, everything
It's every
you
single
see.
thing you do is being tracked, and that's what they're building the data centers for. It's not so that old people can make cat AI photos and stuff like that, or cute pictures of their dog doing silly things. It's so that they can store all the information they're harvesting off of you.
Yes. Which is blatantly against Fourth Amendment. Like, it's we don't really have the Constitution in America. Like, and like we're talking about, we referenced Tom Foe's video. He has a great video on it. Is they don't play by the rules. Why should we play by the rules? Why do we have to go with this system if they're not even playing by the same rules? Like, you have to get out of that mindset.
Yeah, and I think that it's in a just society where you live with people that look like you, that believe the same things that you do, that are from the area that you're from. The idea of playing by the rules and having decorum for the rule of law and upholding tradition and stuff like that is noble. However, we don't live in that system. So you need to get the idea out of your head that your neighbors, the people that are around you, are living by the same rules that you are, because they're not.
No.
They're
And
going to use your benevolence against you, and you will be the one suffering at the very ideals that you've extended to others.
the main point, and we're gonna pick apart the back half of this. There's like 15 minutes left in this video, and it's at 1.5 speed, so it should speed up pretty quickly. And I don't know if we're gonna get all the way to the end or not, but you have to constantly be thinking of ways to unplug from the current system, because the system is what keeps you a slave. The current system, the way it's going, it is going to fail. At the end of the day, the trajectory of the federal government, this democracy that people have in their brain, this idea, those rules being confined the way that they are, it will fail. It's just no way it is not going to fail. It has to fail.
It already has.
It already has. Like, America is no longer the America that you were sold. Like, it's not. Like, we live in a dystopian hellscape. You just don't realize it yet. And it's going to get a lot worse. So you have to start thinking of ways to get out of that mindset and start doing something about it, because we really don't have any options left. And we'll kind of like talk about that after, but let's finish it off here.
The way this plays out, Supreme Court comes down and decides that actually, the Second Amendment does not mean an individual right to own firearms. And so what's going to happen initially is all of the blue states are going to pass wide sweeping, anti-gun laws. You're going to see certain things with religion too. They're going to decide that, freedom of religion, of course, must be strictly enforced when it applies to certain religions, but when it applies to Christianity, well, not so much. I mean, you're definitely going to get decisions which punish churches that don't perform, gay marriages or things of that nature. They are absolutely going to do that. They're going to restrict them from certain privileges that they now have. They're going to take away their tax exempt status, because the whole point will be to punish churches for not going along with woke progressive ideals. And by the way, there will be churches which absolutely support and campaign for this legislation. We're running out the biblically sound churches in favor of the progressive ones. So what's that going to cause to happen? Well, you're going to have a mass exodus from a lot of blue states into red states. Well, now what's taking place? Well, now different conditions are being set. People aren't moving from one state to the next just because it's better taxes or better weather or better retirement. No, they're moving now for ideological reasons. Now you get self-sorting. What happens in the red states? Well, you're going to get more red states that they're passing more heavy-duty social laws that are causing the Democrats to leave. But every time that happens, the Democrats or the woke progressives in that red state, they're going to run to the courts and they're going to claim some sort of violation of civil rights. They're going to claim hate speech. They're going to claim whatever they have to claim. And then this newly packed Supreme Court is going to back it up. And so they won't be content to just be able to do whatever they want in blue states. They will insist that the same thing be done in red states. And that's where you're going to get a point where enough governors say, no, I no longer recognize this decision from the Supreme Court because A, you're just an extension of the federal government and you shouldn't have final say on what the Constitution is. And B, you keep rendering ridiculous decisions. You keep rendering obviously woke decisions, which have no precedent, which have no respect for stare decisis, nothing. And so you're going to start to see governors in red states, especially the overwhelmingly red states. These are places like Wyoming, Idaho, Tennessee, potentially Florida, potentially Texas, depending on who the governor is, where they just push back and say, absolutely not. And then it's going to be a question, just like it was at the border, just like it's been for marijuana.
Oh, hold on. Let me.
How far does the federal government want to push this thing? And that's the unknown. That's the unknown. So this idea that all of this happens based off of one person, the John Browns get killed.
So that's where I disagree. Okay, the point of well, if it all goes all the way to the Supreme Court has a packed Democrat thing. They have, the Senate, the House, if they gain all control, well, then you're going to have, people going from red states to blue states based on ideals, all this, yada, yada, yada. And then eventually you're going to get governors that are going to stand up to the Supreme Court. My whole point to that is, no, they are not. No, they are not. Because it's the total idea that, this governor is just going to stand up to the Supreme Court and the federal government. They are not, because they are in lockstep. The people who pay these governors to campaign, give them campaign funds, are the same people that are pushing the leftist ideology. The same people that are pushing leftist ideology are funded by the same people who are pushing for the conservative, warmongering, overseas foreign policy. It's the same people.
I agree with you. I don't think that the governors themselves or the state, like Congresses and stuff, those people don't hold power either. They don't hold this. They hold just as little power as the federal, the president and the, National Congress and stuff do. It comes down to law enforcement. The police, the sheriffs, those are the people that hold power because they're the ones with guns that go around and do the bidding of them. So, because what's the government going to do? The government can't, like senators and congressmen and the president themselves are not going around enforcing rules on the population. It's the people with guns that are doing that. So those are the people with the real power.
Yes.
Because that's all that power comes down to is force.
Yes.
That's at its base root, power always comes down to force. And whoever has the force is the one with power.
I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to get to my thoughts on that, because he makes one point in this video, and it's really the main point that I want to get to in this video, where he brings it up, and it'll make sense on my position when we get there. But the whole idea of force, yes, the people with the guns apply the force. At the end of the day, that's all power really is. It's just force. So I agree with that. But this is the point that I'm trying to make here is that governors in red states are going to eventually get to the point where they're going to be like, no more. They're not. That's a fallacy. That's not real.
Don't start revolutions, they get killed. What happens is when, again, you have some sort of legitimate, legally structured political entity that is willing to stand up against the central entity in this case being the federal government. If you have enough states that are willing to do this, and this is where we kind of go back and take a look at the map. If you have enough states that are actually willing to do this, if you have enough jurisdictions that are willing to do this, well, now all of a sudden you're looking at a very different situation. Because while I don't think it's going to happen along the lines that we saw during the Civil War, obviously, I think, and while I can look at certain states and be like, okay, Montana votes Republican when it comes to the president, but they've had Democrat senators, they have Democrat congressmen, they have a smaller population. The urban centers are very liberal. You look at places like Michigan. Yeah, it went for Trump this time, but barely. Like Detroit is not going to be, fighting with the rest of Michigan. Same thing when you get into places like New York. Yeah, New York City is kind of communist at this point, but upstate New York isn't. So that's where the
Why is that? Why is that, Nick?
Cities are actually hell.
No, but why is upstate New York not, communist? Is there can we look past the red and blue thing just a little bit more? Can we look into that? Let's just wade in there just a little bit. Why would upstate New York be conservative? What are the demographics of upstate New York? This is kind of like the skirting around the actual problem thing I was talking about before.
divides take place is going to be interesting. And the lead up to this is not going to be one decision and then these states break off. The lead up is going to be conservatives from blue states are going to start moving more into red states because they're red states. Leftists are going to start moving from the more hardcore red states into blue states, but only if those red states are passing legislation that repels them. Right? Like Georgia has learned this the hard way. Georgia did this bunch of thing where we're going to do tax credits for Hollywood and we're going to be the new Hollywood. Well, you didn't just get Hollywood money, you got Hollywood culture. And now all of a sudden Georgia, which should be a solid conservative state, is now voting, more like a swing state in some election cycles because of the urban areas. But again, I think what you're going to see is when you look at states like Tennessee recently passed a resolution which said that June is Nuclear Family Month. And I watch conservatives saying things like, well, this is kind of cringy. I don't need the government. Shut up. Yeah, they know you don't need the government to uphold the traditional family. They're doing it to send a message that in Tennessee, this is what we value. And if you don't value that, tough. They are sending a message that Tennessee represents certain cultural values. They're not saying that the government is necessary to uphold the nuclear family. They're sending a message. And they want it to be clear enough to where when Californians who still love Gavin Newsom but are leaving the state because they don't want the retirement tax into oblivion, when they're looking at places like Nashville, they want them to understand, hey, this might not be a place which is conducive to your values. You might want to look elsewhere. The left does it all the time to us. They're constantly telling us, if you don't like it, leave. And then they try to tax you to death on the way out. This is just right. Florida did this. How did Florida become the sort of place where Democrats were encouraging other Democrats to not only not come to Florida, but to pick up and leave? How'd they do it? Well, it's real simple. They passed a bunch of legislation that allowed for greater school choice. They pushed back against woke progressivism. They were against transing kids. They restricted abortion. So basically what they did is they told the left, hey, in this state, we're not going to make it super easy for you to kill your kids in the womb. And once your kids get out, we're going to make it impossible for you to trans them. Oh, by the way, we're also going to give a bunch of school choice options so kids can actually get the education that they want instead of the one that you dictate through the government. That was enough. That was enough for Democrats to be like, I don't want to live in this state. It's hostile to me. Great. Take your ideology and go. You're going to start to see a lot more of that in the country. And what's going to happen is it's not going to be strictly.
I just disagree. I don't think my thoughts, like I said before, the left cannot stand on its own. And it's the complete inverse of what he's saying. We have an influx of people from California going to places like Texas and Montana and everything like that. It's because they destroyed California and they can no longer afford to live there. So the left only cares about where they can actually afford to be, and then they destroy the place that's good.
Yes. However, the playbook that he's talking about here is making it uncomfortable to live in a place where your values do not match is the right play. That's what we should be doing, is making it uncomfortable and unbearable for you to exist here because we will not tolerate your line of thinking. That is the playbook that we need to be using to get these people out of these places so that we can have people that are like-minded around us.
Sure, but if you do it through the government, it just completely collapses on itself. Perfect example, Florida, the one that he used. Sure, they passed all these things that were conservative value and all these laws that really don't make a huge difference. They're small. They are differences, and it is, showing, on face value that we don't want certain things here. It's still not a beacon of freedom. Florida is one of the worst places in terms of freedom that you could live right now, currently in the United States. You would think with all these, conservative facing laws that they're passing, all this gerrymandering and just like word speak about like all these things that they're doing, You still have anti-Semitism laws. You still have bad gun laws.
This is because Florida is a boomer state. You also got to consider the age demographic of people that live there too. Florida is basically the conservative boomer state.
It still doesn't change the laws.
Yes, because boomers like those types of things. They believe that Israel is our greatest ally and that you shouldn't speak bad about them. And they are scared of big, scary AR-15s and people owning them, stuff like that. So if you look at the type of people that live in Florida, of course you're going to get those.
And you get a higher population of, we're past 2 hours now, you have a higher population of Jews and people who are practicing Judaism in that state.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, it's going to turn blue, because what is Judaism other than degeneracy and Satanistic behavior? If that is allowed to fester, eventually those policies turn blue, because leftist, Satanism, the ideals, that comes from Jews. Those ideals are Jewish ideals, like we were talking about with Weimar. The degeneracy that comes from that religion and the things that they push is essentially blue. So eventually, Florida will be blue. Eventually, the boomers will die out, and it'll be a blue state. But Florida is not a beacon of freedom. It is just a face value, just lie. It's just not the way it works.
In urban-rural divide, you're going to have an overwhelming amount of red people from blue states moving to red states and blue people from red states moving to blue states, and that will polarize things further. The blue states will never be satisfied with just having their blue states. They will want to impose things on the red states. That's why they will use the federal government. That's why they will use the Supreme Court. And they will use, they will take the money from all the states, and then they will punish the ones that don't do what liberals want you to do, and they will reward states that do exactly what liberals want them to do. And now you will start to see more and more money flowing in along those lines. At some point, it'll be governors in red states that push back and say, we're not doing this anymore. We're not accepting it. And it could come in the form of tax revolts. You could see a group of states coming together, saying we no longer accept this. We're no longer going to put up with this. We're going to not only not accept a lot of these federal laws and these federal decisions coming down, but we're actually going to stand in the way of you being able to enforce them. So it's not just that we're not going to help you enforce it. We will stand in the way of you being able to enforce it. And this is where you get things like, Idaho, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio. You see all these states come together and be like, all the governors have now signed on to like some sort of letter or compact saying that we recognize that the federal government has vastly overstepped the constitutional boundaries. We will not allow, we do not recognize these laws or these decisions. They'll probably list them out within the borders of our states, nor will we assist the federal government in trying to enforce these laws, nor will we permit agents of the federal government to enforce them. And then when you get enough states that join some sort of compact like that, the federal government has to decide, do you want to go to war? Because here's the other problem that they have. Here's the other problem that James Carville doesn't realize as he tries to start a revolution with a bunch of people who define themselves based off of their mental illnesses, right? The vanguard of the revolution for the left right now are the same people that literally have a panic attack when they get misgendered. Not exactly the sort of people that are capable of fighting an effective civil war. But see, these guys still believe that they can go to the police department, that they can go to the sheriff's department, that they can go to the military and just tell them to do stuff. And they will because, well, the Constitution says I have jurisdiction. Well, the bottom line is when you violate the fundamental principles of the Constitution as much as the left wants to and has done when they've had the opportunities, you erode confidence in that document. You don't get to ignore it when it suits you and then appeal to it, right, when you want something done. You're going to erode the overall confidence and the authority of the document and the institutions themselves. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you were to go to the 82nd Airborne, or if you were to go to the 101st, or if you were to go to 1st Special Forces Group, and you were to tell them, hey, we need you guys to go into Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Tennessee in order to confiscate guns, you're either going to have a lot of people walking off the job, or you're going to have a lot of people to go, no problem. And they go out there and they're like, no guns here. So if what James Carville is counting on is that every soldier, every sailor, every Marine, every airman, every agent, every officer is just going to mindlessly carry out with whatever the federal government wants under his rule, he's out of his mind. Now, some people will. Some people will because they'll get in the senior leadership that they want. They will get in people that they want to try to carry this out. Other people will do it just because, hey, I'm not political and I'm just trying to take care of my family. That will be their argument. I'm either just following orders or I need the paycheck. They will have some people that will do that, but they will have a lot of people that will either refuse or they will quietly obstruct, which is to say that they're not getting out there going, I'm never going to enforce this. No, what they'll say is, roger that, and then not enforce it. Or they'll do such a horrible.
Yeah.
This this is the point that I wanted to get to throughout this whole video. And this was recorded before this happened or got signed into a law. And so the whole idea of, and I've heard this before, like, oh, well, if, the state decides to go against the federal government and not uphold the laws, well, then the military is going to have to come in. And then military guys, they're mostly conservative and they're just not going to do that. Yeah, that's correct. Well, on the other hand, we just got signed into law that the U.S. military and the IDF are now integrating. And you know who would absolutely love to come into America and start sliming out the goyim for not going along with what the federal government wants? The IDF sure would love all the toys that the U.S. military has to impose their will upon the U.S. population. That's a point that I think people are not understanding, and why the integration of Israel's military and the U.S. military, combining them, why that is the end of America. That if we have IDF soldiers on the U.S. soil carrying out federal government, which is controlled by Israel, there's no question about that. If you have the IDF with full access to the U.S. military, they will carry out whatever the federal government wants, because those two are one and the same at this point. That's the whole thing that I think people are missing. When we talk about the levers of power, who's in control, the laws that are being passed behind closed doors while there's some, distraction in the news. That's a key piece that people are missing. And that's kind of the whole point of why I think states can't stand up to the federal government. At this point, if the U.S. military and Israel's military fully integrate.
What about the National Guard?
What about the National Guard?
Well, the National Guard has the same equipment as the regular U.S. military.
Did Donald Trump not just deputize the National Guard?
Yeah, but it's not necessarily that. You're gonna have people in the regular military, the National Guard, the police forces, and stuff like that are like, hey, whoa, what? Why are we letting a foreign military into our country to do the government's bidding?
I think the groundwork's already been laid. I think the people that are in the military that are going to object to that are going to get pushed out or silenced. I think if you're in the U.S. military and let's say they do completely integrate, we have IDF soldiers on the ground, I don't think we're going to have American U.S. military people having full access to the things that they already have still. I think once they integrate, it's either you're in with IDF or you're not. It's essentially just handing our military to Israel if that happens on U.S. soil. There would be no delineation between American military and Israel's military. It will just be Israel's military. It would be just handing our military over all of our assets that we have in our U.S. military. It's just handing everything to them. I mean, we already fight their wars for them. A lot of people in the military already know that they're fighting Israel's war. A lot of them. And they're still fighting anyway.
Yeah, the problem with that though is that, like, what are you gonna do if you're bound by a contract? Go to prison?
I don't know what you do.
I have people that I know that are active duty that feel the same way as you and I. So it's either they make the best of their deployment and deal with it
At what
when they come back, or go to prison for deserting for the rest of their life and never see their family again.
Yeah, at what point? That's what I'm saying. I think the ground rules have been starting to be set. I think most military dudes are good dudes, and if stuff like that started happening on U.S. soil, they would not be about it.
Yeah.
But at what point do you have to draw the line?
Right.
At what point is, like, I don't, that's a tough question. And it's going to be the same question that they're going to have when it comes to if they do integrate and we have to, the government says we have to get, these certain groups, these, they're going to label people like Patriot Front. If it's a legit movement, they're going to get labeled as domestic terrorists. And then what happens when it comes over here? Either you start killing these domestic terrorists, Patriot Front people, or you go to jail. What happens then?
Yeah. I don't know. I think you're cooked.
Like the seeds are already sown. Like that's the reality we're inching towards. And I think we should just finish off the video and see if there's any other points we want to talk about. But that's really the big point I wanted to make about this whole argument with trying to get out of the mindset of it's just, red versus blue and states standing up to the federal government. Like I was saying, they do not play by the same rules.
Job, or they'll give information to the states that are resisting and pushing back. And then the federal government has to make a decision. Do you want to continue to do it this way? Because as Iowa Hawk pointed out once, you don't get to kill the institution, gut it, wear it like a skin suit, and then demand respect. You don't get to 1 minute say the Constitution is an antiquated document written by rich white slave owners, and then the next minute say, nope, this is the document I'm going to rely upon to compel you to do whatever I want. You don't get to do that. And so that's my prediction, is that if James Carville actually gets what he claims to want, if he actually gets what he claims to want, if Democrats do this, it's not going to yield permanent Democrat control of the federal government. It's not going to yield kind of an unending Democrat dominance over the body politic in America. It's not going to do that. It's going to signify to a lot of people right now who are already pretty convinced that we're headed toward conflict that now is the time. So what James Carville did was he didn't set the conditions for Democrats to have permanent power. He laid out the conditions for what would actually cause Democrats and Republicans to go from arguing with each other on X to fighting each other in states and streets. Those would be the conditions. I don't know what the catalyst would be yet. I think the catalyst could very well be something around the Second Amendment. I think it would just have to be significant enough to where enough governors in red states bound together and didn't secede from the union. They just bound together and said, we're not doing that in our states, and neither are you. And if you don't like it, let's see how bad you want it, because we can tell you how bad we don't. That's it. That's what I think will happen. That is how I think this thing will go down. I hope it doesn't, though. I hope Democrats lose in the midterms. I hope this kind of arrogance that James Carville is pushing out there causes them to lose in the midterms. I hope I hope, like in Virginia, for instance, today they're voting on whether or not to approve a referendum, which would make us the most gerrymandered map in Virginia or in the country. It would take us from a 5 Republican, 6 Democrat congressional apportionment, which is actually a fairly accurate representation of how Virginia votes in federal elections, to a 10-1 Democrat map. It's a total joke, and the way they worded the ballot question is immoral and unethical, and they just didn't care. And if they win as a result of it, what will signify to them and what will signify to Democrats like James Carville is now is your time. Now is the time to do it, because you can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter if it's honest. It doesn't matter if it's constitutional. It doesn't matter if it's legal. It doesn't matter. As long as you just give the Democrat base what they want, they return you to power, and Republicans are not willing to stand up and actually push back. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in Virginia. We'll see what happens in the midterms. Right now, we've got a lot of people that claim to be America first that are either too dumb to understand that their strategy is not going. Their strategy of accelerationism isn't going to work, or they're just subversive themselves, or maybe they're just grifters. They could just be getting money for clicks. I don't know. But the point is we look at all of that. James Carville has laid out the conditions that would lead us to an actual conflict, a no kidding conflict in our lifetime. The question only remains, what is the catalyst? And we'll see. We'll see. But in the meantime, people are going to have to make some hard decisions about where they want to live, where they want to raise their families, because this much I know for sure. Democrats have absolutely no problem bringing down the hammer of government hard on people they don't like. Republicans are always reluctant to do it. We always say things, what if the shoe was on the other foot? Oh, but what happens when they get into power? Okay, well, Democrats are happy to let you use those arguments to not exercise legitimate power in order to get things done, so that when they get back into power, because after all, you didn't accomplish anything, Republicans, when they get back into power, they just bring the hammer and they bring it heavy. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But think hard about where you want to raise your family. Because as much as I hate to say this, it is my honest opinion that if the Democrats got what James Carville is asking for, you're not just going to be asking where you can raise your family. You're going to be asking yourselves, where can you defend them from? Hope it doesn't get to that. Godspeed. Thank you very much. If you live in Virginia, go vote no. You still got a little bit of time. Go vote no.
And that's that. And so that was the whole point of the video in this episode is, in my opinion, this civil war, this idea of it being red versus blue, Democrat versus Republican, it's not going to look like that the way that he laid that out. I
don't think it'll be like Democrat versus Republican, like along party lines. It'll be people who want a future that is prosperous and gets back to the roots of what this nation used to be, or the people who want to see it ruined and bastardized and destroyed because they hate everything that white Europeans stand for and have created in their societies. I don't think it'll be like red versus blue. It'll be people who value our heritage and who want to lead a successful civilization, and people who wish to destroy it.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be state versus federal government either, because I think there's an illusion that the state still, in theory, yes, the state does hold power to say, no, we're not going to enforce federal laws. In practice, though, I think the levers of power that the federal government has, I think they control all the levers. I don't really think, I don't see how a state government could ever stand up in the fact that they control all the money.
No, I don't think it'll be state. Like, oh, the state of Wisconsin is joining, the state of Iowa for this, and this. It'll be people who are going to move to where like-minded people are, and those regions will be their own pockets of,
It'll
whether that be within the borders of a state, but it won't be like the state. It'll be a region. Oh, this is where all of the Christian nationalists live. Or, oh, this is where all of the, communists live. Whatever.
The federal government doesn't even have to bring in military to put pressure on certain groups of people if they don't want to. Like, they're already pushing for, like, Marco Rubio he's already talking about digital ID. And once that gets implemented, they can control your money, what you buy, where you buy it, where you're allowed to go, what you're allowed to do.
Which incentivizes people to collectively gather together closer, because then it's easier to barter, which is the easiest way to unplug from the system of a digital currency and
Yes.
stuff like that.
That
Because instead of, oh, I really want to buy this product, I need this product, but, well, it comes from a completely other state, you know, like 800, 1,000 miles from me, wherever. I can't order it on Amazon type of deal. It's like, but
you
we're
have
all gathered
to
together. It's like, oh, this company down the street from me has this. I need that. I'll go trade it.
and why that's why I'm saying that it's important to already be thinking like that now.
Yeah.
We can't once digital ID becomes universal, they implement it and they turn it into federal law. It's already too late.
Yeah.
You should already be making small steps to circumvent that system. Right now, you have to start establishing skills and means that are going to allow you to not be under the thumb of the federal government. So you need to be thinking every day, everything that is controlled by the government, which is everything in your entire life. How do I start doing things that the government has no control over? Your food, your water, your banking. That's going to be a huge one. That's the biggest one. And your relationships.
And this is why I tell people it's so important that you need to learn a valuable skill that you can use to market yourself with. Because when the ability for you to do your job because you've been replaced by an Indian or AI is gone, working as an accountant because a computer can do numbers infinitely faster and more productively than you. Now, what do you have to offer the world in forms of trade? I don't know, man. Learn a marketable skill.
Hard skills. And it doesn't even have to be like marketable. Like, while we still have access to YouTube University where you can just learn things, just learn basic things.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things that you can do that you can just like do at home around wherever you live. Just learn something.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this giant investment thing. Like, you don't have to become a car mechanic overnight. You don't have to become.
Figure out how to change a tire, change your brakes. You know, how to fix a leak in your roof, fix a leak in your water pipe.
Next time you have to, change your oil, do it yourself.
Yeah.
Just quick YouTube it instead of, taking the convenience of just doing it at the car shop. Just YouTube how to do it yourself, figure it out. That's a small introductory skill. It's might cost you a little bit more than it would be to just take it to the car dealership to get it changed out. But now you learned something. Now you did something physical with your hands and you know how to do it. You might mess it up. Who cares? I mean,
They learn.
it's how you learn. It's going to be a pain in the ass if you don't know anything about cars, but you'll learn something, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest relationship or the biggest skill that you can have is building relationships and talking to people. It's a giant skill. And it's a saying, and it's a saying for a reason. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know.
hmm
And I think that's lost on people today. But just talk to people. You can't figure out everything on your own. But all that being said, I think we should end it there. And I want to end it on a positive note where if you look around, you look at the similarities between, you know, Weimar and certain situations. There's no denying that when you look around, everything is bad. Like if you're a young, like white American, or you're just a young dude in general in America, yeah, life sucks. Like everything is looking bad. But that doesn't mean things are going to turn out bad. Like things are going to get bad. But in the end, what I'm very hopeful for is we will win. I have no doubt that we will win. And if you're a Christian, if we're talking end times, we win. Like if you're a Christian,
already won.
you already won. If you accept our Lord and Savior into your heart, Jesus Christ, you already won. You cannot lose.
Yeah.
So you have that.
That should
Okay.
motivate you and encourage you for the rest of your life.
It's not an excuse to just, give up on things of the world. You should try to make things better.
It should motivate you, in fact, to want to extend that to everybody and make your society better. Make the people around you better. Instead of sitting back and being like, oh, well, I'm good. It should be a motivator for you to make positive change around you.
Yeah. But if you look at it from just societal and you look at the history of everything, might get ugly, but we're going to win. I believe that.
Yeah.
When it comes to people who have a righteous anger or are fighting for morality, the cycle is that eventually we do come out on top. And I'm hopeful for that. And I just want everyone to not take the black pill and just be one of those guys where it's like, well, there's nothing we can do, so what's the point? You shouldn't be that guy. You should be someone thinking, all right, well, this is our situation.
How do we fix it?
How do we go about it in a smart way? How do we make a tangible change in a way that's righteous? How do you remove the levers of power that are wielded over you and get other people on board?
Yeah.
That's the way that we're going to win.
I agree. I don't think I have anything else to add to that.
All right.
Perfect.
Well, it's pretty rare that you're not given the better ending note. But
That's good.
all right.
Thank you guys so much for being here.
Yeah.
Really
We love
appreciate
you.
you.
We love you for watching. Yeah, be on the lookout for more things. If you have any ideas or you want us to talk about anything in like specifically, definitely let us know. Because we're always looking for new ideas and new things to do. To grow and make the show better is a big thing.
Mhm.
We can be definitely distracted, and the streams can get a little bit I don't know, not like super like punchy all the time. And I'm trying to work on that. So if you've been with us for the last couple of months, know that we're trying, and we thank you anyway for watching us. So like the stream, share with people who are like minded,
Join the Discord.
join the
If you want to meet
Discord.
people,
Yep.
hang out, chit chat, have fun.
Yep. Yeah, unless you're fed, we don't want you.
No.
Um, But yes, do all that. And as always, the link in the description for ways that you can help Dugan, all that stuff is down there. So if you can help him, because he is a good dude that needs a lot of help.
Yeah. Don't forget, Christ is King. Like Tom Fell says, America first and always. See you next week.
See ya.